You guys like look on when you monitor these models in production? You look at distributions of features, predictions. Are you looking at kind of the business OKR? Are you looking at everything? Is there a certain process that you say, okay, at this point it makes sense to retrain the model?
That's
my experience. Oh, please go.
No, go for it, Piero.
Sure.
I was still thinking.
Nice. So I can give you like the experience, a specific experience that is one that I had with one project that I worked on at Uber, which is called COTA. It was a customer support project where we had this model that was predicting, given the tickets, we're helping the customer support representatives to, answer those tickets by classifying them and also figuring out what actions would be needed and what templates to use for giving answers. So one thing that we did there, again, in that case, there was metrics were kind of aligned. What we ultimately cared for was how faster can we make the customer support representatives without sacrificing their accuracy. And obviously, the more accurate your model is, probably the more you can help them being fast because your suggestions are impactful for them. But at the same time, there were other aspects that were important. For instance, the UI was really important because they would see the suggestions from the model, and even if the top one suggestion was about 60% accurate out of like 2,000 classes, so 60% was actually pretty good. We were something like I think 95 or 97% accurate in the top 3 suggestions. Mm-hmm. So in the end, we ended up suggesting to the customers 3 things instead of 1, and that was more impactful that like a 1 or 2 or 3% more accurate, being 1, 2, 3% more accurate in the top 1 prediction. So that's one aspect that was important for us. And in terms of monitoring and retraining, one thing that we did there was basically we run this experiment where we had a certain amount of data. Let's say, I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say we have 4 months of data. And we were separating the data in several different bins so that we had a certain amount of old data and predictions in the future. So for instance, we would take the first 2 months as training data and the 3rd month as divided in 4 weeks as prediction. And then we take this window and we shift it by 2 weeks. And then we shift it again by 2 weeks. What this gave us is basically, we had an understanding of how much older data do you need to add to your model until it actually becomes noise because of the change in the distribution. And for us, in that case, we had enough data that with like a month and a half of data was enough. If we added more data, more older data, it would become just noise. And the same thing was for the future. So we had up to 2 months window in the future. And we would say that the performance had kind of a drop after a month and a few days. And so we decided to retrain every month. That was like one specific experience, but I think this general kind of approach for figuring out how much older data and how much you have to wait until retraining is, a pretty good one. And obviously it's also dynamic because there could be months where the distribution shifts more and months where it shifts less. So depending on that, you may want to adapt the time and you want to retrain depending on that.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Piero. Actually, what Piero alluded to was some long-term holdback as well, right? We always want to see how your model ages, right? Whether it's aging well or, after 2 weeks, it's all noise, right? And what happens many times is you deploy a model in the wild, you look at your A/B test and your metrics, and all your metrics light up, and you're very happy, you're successful. But after 2 weeks, those metrics turn red. And there are many reasons why that happens. One could be that, as Piero suggests, the model is just not aging well. The other thing is the model optimized for something. Let's say you're just throwing way too many clickbait stuff at the user. After some time, the user just learns to ignore those things, right? So a long-term holdback is very important to understand how your model ages. The other reason to maybe retrain or have some kind of a continuous retraining pipeline is to understand how much fresh content do you need to serve, and also how much fresh content is coming into you, right? So if you're in the restaurant recommendation game, maybe there are hundreds of restaurants coming in every week. so you need to retrain on a weekly basis. But let's say you're in the YouTube recommendation game, there are millions of videos coming every minute. So you have to, probably you can't retrain every minute, but hopefully you can retrain every day or a few times a day, right? So these things definitely matter. You know, freshness of content is a business metric, I guess, and that kind of drives how often you want to retrain your model.